Hey everybody, it's Keegan here. I'm back with another video for you guys, and today I'm bringing you guys another edition of Keegan's movie reviews once again. And today we're going to be talking about 3 films this time, all of which I've watched in theaters recently. So let's not waste any more time and let's talk about them. First one we're going to be talking about is a brand new film that just got released about a week ago, and I saw it on the day it came out, and that is the 2024 crime thriller Love Lies Bleeding, directed by Rose Glass, and it was originally released on March 15th, 2024. So this film came out very recently. And Rose Glass is the same director of a horror film called Saint Maud from 2020. That one I have seen, and I was not a big fan of it. It was okay, but I don't know, it just wasn't really for me. This one, on the other hand, I ended up really enjoying. I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would, but we'll get to more on that shortly. But for right now, we'll just get into the plot of the film and then we'll get into my thoughts on it. So, Love Lies Bleeding takes place sometime in the late 80s, and it follows a gym owner named Lou, played by Kristen Stewart. And she falls in love with a bodybuilder named Jackie, played by Kathy O'Brien. And Jackie moves into town, but is only going to be living in town for a short while before going. She's on her way to a bodybuilding competition in Las Vegas. So the two fall in love, and Jackie starts to learn about Lou's very dysfunctional family, to say the least. Her father's a mobster. Her sister is married to an abusive shithead who beats her up, and well, let's just say Lou grew up with a pretty bad family. And then from there, after an altercation with a relative in the family, hell breaks loose, and the father is out for blood. So of course, Jackie and Lou are trying to stay low from the heat that is increasing, and the tension's getting higher throughout the film. And without giving away too much, that's basically the story of the film in a nutshell. I really enjoyed Love Lies Bleeding. I surprisingly enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I thought it was a really well directed and a pretty well acted film. And in my opinion, this movie probably has Kristen Stewart's best performance I've seen in years from her. I haven't seen Spencer yet, though. I heard she's really good in that one. But I really enjoyed this film. It's got some really good cinematography. It's well shot. It's pretty violent and fairly gory, but it is pretty bloody. And I really like the soundtrack in this movie. Like, the soundtrack in this movie is killer. It's probably the best soundtrack on a more recent film that just came out as of recently that I've heard in a while. And all in all, it was a really well made film that I would highly recommend checking out, and is definitely well worth the price of admission. And I will say, I think I'm looking forward to the next film Rose Glass will be coming out with. This is her second film. As I mentioned before, I did see her first film, Saint Maud. That one I was not a fan of. Excuse me. But this one, I was pleasantly surprised with Love Lies Bleeding. It's so far one of the best films I've seen this year so far, and I would highly, excuse me, I would highly recommend seeing it if you haven't seen it yet. But anyways, I don't have anything else to add, so I'm gonna give Love Lies Bleeding an 8.5 out of 10. The next film I watched was the 2023 French-Canadian crime thriller Red Rooms, which was directed by Pascal Palante and was released on July 20th, 2023. Now, this one I saw in theaters on Saturday of last week, and it was pretty good. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it, so we'll get by this one pretty quickly. So let's get to the story of the film, and then we'll get into my thoughts on it. So, this film centers around a high-profile murder case of a serial killer who is responsible for the murders of 3 teenage young girls, and it centers around a model who becomes obsessed with the trial, and kind of goes down a dark path to seek the final piece of evidence, the first video of the first victim of the 3 girls who were murdered, because the killer filmed the tape. He taped his victims as he killed them, and there was only 2 that the police have, but our protagonist is trying to obtain the last piece of evidence, and then just enough to put this guy away for the rest of his life, because in Canada we don't have the death penalty. And the whole movie is centered around the perspective of our protagonist, which was pretty interesting, instead of the trial. But without giving away too much, that's basically the story of the film in a nutshell. As I mentioned before, I don't have a whole lot to say about it, so we'll get by this one pretty quickly. But I thought this movie was pretty good. It had some good music. It was well shot, and it was pretty well acted. It was dark, and there were times where this movie had me on edge. Like, it kind of had me uneasy at certain parts. But I enjoyed the film for what it was. It might not be for everybody, but I personally enjoyed it for what it was. Though not the best film I've seen, but I still thought it was pretty solid. Had some good music. It was had some good cinematography, and the overall pacing was pretty straightforward, and I found the film pretty enjoyable. But again, I don't really have a whole lot to say about it, so if these kind of movies interest you, then I would recommend checking it out. And I'm giving Red Rooms a 7.5 out of 10. And the last film we're going to be talking about is a classic, and that is the 1968 science fiction film 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was co-written and directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it was originally released on May 12th, 1968. Now, this one I saw in theaters yesterday afternoon with a big crowd of people, and it was an interesting experience. Now, I've actually seen this movie twice. I own the film on 4K Blu-ray, and I watched it there first 2 years ago, and then I saw it in theaters yesterday with a big crowd of people, and it was an interesting experience, but we'll get to more on that in a bit. Now, the story for this one's pretty straightforward. I'm sure you've all seen it, but I'm still gonna get into the story a little bit, and then we'll get into my thoughts on it. So yeah, in this film, it centers around a space shuttle that's carrying 5 men. 2 of them are awake while the others are in hibernation in one of those little pods. And the ship also has a built-in computer called the HAL 9000, I think is what it's called. Basically, the ship is set to Jupiter to find the origins of a mysterious artifact that was found on the moon. And then things get strange and surreal throughout the film. And without giving away too much, that's basically the story of the film in a nutshell. There's a good reason why 2001: A Space Odyssey is considered a sci-fi classic, because it is a sci-fi classic for a reason. It's weird, it's trippy, it's really well shot, and the use of classical music in the film is used extremely well. And the ending, it keeps people thinking for a while. Like, it has one of the most slightly confusing and polarizing endings to the film. It's just like, what the hell kind of ending was that? Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking when I saw the ending. But it's definitely a film that should be seen, especially if you're a big diehard film buff. This is a film that I think everyone should watch at least once in their life. And the ambience in the film is used really well. Like, some scenes it's quiet for a few seconds, then there's noise at a certain part, and you could hear the sounds of the space men breathing within their helmet, which was pretty cool. And it's just a really, really well made film. I enjoyed this film a lot more on a second viewing, and I would say seeing it in theaters with a big crowd of people is the best experience. And in general, this feels like this whole film was made to be seen in theaters, and rightfully so, in my opinion. But there is no denying that this film is a classic, and it still is all these decades later, and it's one of Stanley Kubrick's best films. But all in all, it is a great film, and there was a sequel that came out in the 80s called 2010, The Year We Made Contact. I haven't seen that one, but I heard it is not nearly as great as this film, but perhaps I'll check it out someday and maybe talk about it. But as for 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's a classic, it's a must-watch, and it's definitely one of the greatest science fiction films of all time. But I don't have anything else to add, so I'm giving 2001: A Space Odyssey an 8.9 out of 10. Well, there you have it, folks. That wraps up another edition of Keegan's Movie Reviews. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. As always, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment below, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share the video with your friends. And more movie review videos will be coming out soon. I think I might have another one coming out tomorrow, but we'll see. But anyways, until then, this is Keegan Shepard signing off. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. And yeah, take care, everybody. Peace out. Bye-bye.